Hey there everyone, what is going on? As always, I'm Bobathan, and I've been back and forth all day about what I was going to make today, especially because it's already 8:30 at night, and I wanted this to go live around 6. Yeah, I haven't really, it's so hard to make content during this time, but I think I found what I'm going to do for today. If you haven't seen it before, it's all over YouTube. It's the tier ranking list. You'll see it in a second when I throw it up, but so for this video we're going to rank teams in the NHL by tiers. The tiers provided are S, which is like top tier, A, B, C, or D, and we're gonna go based on what had happened this season, and we'll base it on this season alone, because like if you really wanted to base something on the past, Montreal would probably be S tier, and I refuse to do that. So we're going to do that for today's video, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so we're going to begin, and we're going to start with the Anaheim Ducks. And so, based on statistics from this season, the Anaheim Ducks were currently sitting at, oh, I clicked the wrong button. The Anaheim Ducks were 29, 33, and 9 for a total of 67 points. It wasn't looking like they're going to make the playoffs. Who's their star player? Ryan Getzlaf? Still? That's John Gibson and Nat might be their star player, but yeah, Ryan Getzlaf, Kessler, David Backes, Ryan Miller, Danton Heinen, like no, we're gonna move Anaheim into, I gotta say, the C tier. I think there's worse teams than Anaheim, so we can put them in C. Now, next up is the Arizona Coyotes, which, as we can see, is 33, 29, and 8 for a total of 74 points. This view isn't the best, so we're gonna switch it up, and we're gonna hit standings. So, Arizona is currently sitting, oh, they're about 5 spots out from a wild card spot. They're only 2 ranks and 7 points ahead of Anaheim. I think based on this season and this season alone, they gotta be in the C tier. Next up, we have my favorite team, the best team in the league, the Boston Bruins. And even without my bias, they were the best team in the league this season. They were currently sitting at 100 points, with the next closest being the Tampa Bay Lightning at 92. They have been on fire all year. And yeah, that's about it. I don't think there's any other statements. The Bruins go in S tier. I think I personally say if the season was still going, the Bruins would have won the cup. But again, that has my personal bias in it. The Bruins would have played either the Islanders, Columbus, or Carolina, or maybe the Rangers if they could have made it in the first round. Who knows? Because we didn't get an end to the season. But then we're going to switch it up and we're going to go to the Buffalo Sabres, who, if you look at this list, they're sitting at the same place as Anaheim was. They're 1 point ahead of Anaheim. I think, other than Jack Eichel and maybe Darlene, Buffalo doesn't really have much, and they're going to go in the C category right now. The Calgary Flames, this one's been a disappointment for me because I had Johnny Gaudreau on my team for fantasy. I still have him in one of my other leagues. They haven't really been producing the way they should have. Currently they're sitting in 3rd in the wild card in the West, but if you look, Winnipeg would be ahead of them if they were in their division. For some reason, I thought they were in the same division. Okay. I'm just misguided then. But Winnipeg would be ahead of them, and then you got two teams trailing right behind them. They're definitely not in C, but I don't think they're quite at A yet. I'm going to put them in B for this season. Next up, we have the Carolina Hurricanes, who are currently fighting for the wildcard spot in the East. And I think that Carolina's probably in the same boat as Calgary, maybe a little better. Carolina's going through some injuries. Their goalie's hurt. Dougie Hamilton's hurt. I think this is where you put Carolina with Calgary. There would be some contention for Carolina in A, but I just don't think. I think with all the injuries they're plagued with and everything, as of right now, they're a B tier team. Next up is the Chicago Blackhawks, who should be great, man. It's such a disappointment. They're right up there with Arizona and Anaheim. They got to go and see. You got Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook. I don't know what's going on there. The Colorado Avalanche, I think, are going to be our first A-tier team. They're currently second in the West, and there's nothing else I have to say about them. Colorado's great. They got McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen. Even though both Rantanen and Landeskog have been hurt all season, like on and off, McKinnon stepped up and carried that team. They're definitely an A-ranked team right now. Next is the Columbus Blue Jackets, who they kind of got torn apart. Their team was taken from them, and they're still competing. They're tied with Carolina right now, pushing for that last playoff spot, tied with the Leafs. So I definitely think that Columbus is right up with Carolina in the B tier. Next up is Dallas, who I always thought Dallas was a shitty team, personally, but Dallas is in third in their division. They're currently in a playoff spot. They have more points than the Leafs right now, and I definitely think they deserve to be right up with Colorado as an A-tier team. You got Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, Ben Bishop. Great lineup, but their own GM called them a shitty team at the start of the season. Like, it's hard. It's such a hard mix between the two. Next up, we have our first D-tier team, which would probably be even lower if it was possible. They are currently sitting at a total of 39 points with 17 wins on the whole season. It is the Detroit Red Wings. They will be in the D tier. There's nothing much to say. They're dead last. They traded away one of their best players at the deadline to Edmonton. Dylan Larkin's basically dying there by himself. And yeah. Next up is the Edmonton Oilers, who are currently in second in their division. But I'm going to put Edmonton in the A class as well. You have all the talent in the world there with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I can never pronounce his name. He was traded from Detroit. Anthony, I can't pronounce his name. And I definitely think they're A tier. If not, there's an argument that they could be an S tier team. Next up is the Florida Panthers. I hate that opens every time I switch over. Florida's currently still technically in the wild card race. They're 3 points out from Toronto with 13 games left. They could make a push. They'd have to do really well and hope for the best. I think Florida is up there with the B-level teams. They're definitely not an A-level team, but I don't think they're low enough to be a C-level team. Next up is the LA Kings. If we look at their record, they're second last in the West. They currently have 29 wins for a total of 64 points. And I think the way the Kings, with the talent they have Jonathan Quick, Drew Doughty. I think the Kings are going in the D tier. That's why I said if there was another tier for Detroit, I would put them lower, but currently I think LA is playing just as bad. And yeah, I think LA is definitely a D tier team. It's crazy because I'm going in alphabetical order, so Boston's just been on top, and I know I'm just gonna hear, oh, biased Bruins fan, blah blah blah. But I don't think anyone so far has qualified. I see a bunch of teams in the rankings that I plan on putting up there, but no, don't. Okay, so next up is the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota's currently 3 points ahead of Arizona. They're still technically alive in the wild card chase, but I'm going to put them in C, but they're going to be at like the top of C because they could be a B team, and that's why they could be a B team, but they're currently playing at a C tier level. If they push and make it through to the playoffs, I think they're that C team. But like, who's their best player? Devin Dubnyk? Eric Stahl? Like, they don't have the star power, they don't have the grit. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs if the season restarts. Next up was the Montreal Canadiens, I believe. Why do I have these open? The Montreal Canadiens, who are sitting at 31 wins, 31 losses, 9 OT losses for 71 points. They're not in the playoff race. They lost their season series to Detroit by getting swept. I know Boston was 3-1 against Detroit, which is bad, but Boston's also first in the league. Montreal needs to get rid of Carey Price. I think he'll thrive somewhere else, and they can get so much return for him. They do have some good up-and-comers with Nick Suzuki and Max Domi. They're both going to be great players, and Max already is. But I think Price hasn't worked for, 10 years? And you can get so much value for Price. I just think it's time. For now, they're a C tier. They should be better. That's about it. They should be better, and they're not. Next up is Nashville. Nashville is currently 4 points out of a playoff spot out of a regular spot. They're currently sitting second in the wild card. I think Nashville is an A tier. I think Nashville's a B tier team. They're on par with Calgary and Carolina. Pekka Rinne is getting old. UC Saros is not what they expected him to be. Ellis and why can't I think of his name? Roman Josi are playing stellar on defense there, but other than that, Nashville's not really. I don't think Nashville makes it out of the first round if there's a playoff this season. Next up is the New Jersey Devils, who are 8th in the East for 68 points with Buffalo. They are on par with Buffalo, so I'm going to put them in the C category. Just like Buffalo, I can't put Jack Eichel, I can't put Jack Hughes in the D category. There's so much promise there. Goaltending is currently the issue in New Jersey. Same with in Buffalo, but Blackwood's been starting to perform before the season died down, but yeah. Next up is the New York Islanders, who are currently fighting with all the other teams in the B for a playoff spot. I think New York surprised everyone by still succeeding without Tavares, and I think they'll continue to surprise everyone. Barzal's a great player. They just signed Tatar after the deadline. At the deadline, I think New York's a team to watch out for. I believe Greiss is still in net. New York Islanders goalie, I believe it's Thomas Greiss. Yeah, and with Varlamov as a backup, that's a great tandem goalie duo. And I think they'll make a good push for the playoffs. And I'm going to throw the Rangers right up beside them You got Panarin, you got Lundqvist, you got that new young goalie, I don't remember his name. He got in a car crash right before the virus hit and everything. But they were on fire coming up. They were doing very well. And so I definitely think the Rangers deserve to be in a B tier. They also are just sitting, they're 2 points out of a playoff spot right now. They have 12 games remaining. They definitely could have made it. And I think they'll do well. So next up, we have the Ottawa Senators. They're a bottom D tier team. They have been for the past couple of years. They lost Erik Karlsson. They lost everyone. They have what? Craig Anderson, Anthony Duclair, and Pajot left at the deadline. So yeah, they really don't have much going for them. And yeah, there's nothing to say about Ottawa. They're trash. Their GM, they need a new GM. They need a new owner because their owner is cheap. Anyone who's Canadian will know that. Their arena's in the middle of nowhere, and no one wants to go to their games. You get a better owner, you move the arena closer to downtown Ottawa. You have more fans. You hopefully draw more people in, player-wise. But right now, they're just a shit show. Next up is the Philadelphia Flyers, who are currently second in the Metropolitan Division. And I would have said at the start of the season that Philadelphia would have been a bottom tier team. I had no faith in Carter Hart. I have no faith in their core. Nolan Patrick seems to have been a bust. But I believe he's injured this season. You're relying on, why can't I think of their names? You're relying on old players such as Philadelphia Flyers. Why? I'm blanking on their names. Claude Giroux and Jacob Voracek. James Van Riemsdyk. James Van Riemsdyk. They're just relying on older players, and coming into the season I would have said they would have been trash, but here they are, second in their division, rightfully so, and yeah, they're definitely deserving of where they are. Next up is the Pittsburgh Penguins, who I definitely think are an S tier team. Although they're below Philly in the ratings. Jeez, I can't speak right now. I've done this for 17 minutes. Although they're below Philly in the ratings, it's just hard to deny that roster. They had some goalie issues. Crosby was injured for a bit. And everyone likes to say when Crosby gets injured, Malkin shows up. But Malkin did show up. I had him in fantasy. It was really nice. But I think had Crosby not been injured, they would have done better. I just think it's very hard to discount the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're definitely up there as an S-class team. And I think they would have been able to show that. I do believe they would have passed Philly by the end of the season. And yeah, next up is the San Jose Sharks, who I'm just going to put right beside Ottawa, where, I mean, Brett Burns, Erik Karlsson, that's Joe Thornton. That's there's all of San Jose. Thomas Hertl, Timo Meier. I think one of them got hurt. I don't remember which one it was. They have talent. They do. But they're sitting at last in the West. And the amount of times San Jose burnt me betting on sports this year was crazy. They were always my one team to lose. And yeah. Next up, we have the defending Stanley Cup champions, the St. Louis Blues, who are first in their division, and I believe first in the Western Conference. They beat my Bruins last year for the Cup, as I very, very sadly remember, and their momentum just continued this season. And yeah, it's just crazy. They're so good with what they have. Binnington's been on fire. Jake Allen's been actually playing this season and playing well. Because I have Binnington, I know how often they split reps. It sucks. Ryan O'Reilly, Alex Pietrangelo, like, it's just so good. They're such a good team. They're very deserving of their S tier. Tampa Bay Lightning, who were shitting the bed at the start of the season. Everyone thought that loss to Columbus last year, the sweep in the playoffs, was going to be detrimental to them. Here they are now. They're second in their conference, ahead of the Leafs by 11, behind the Bruins by 8. I believe they went on a 12-game win streak this season. I think it was 12. It's either 11 or 12. And there's nothing, like, there's no reason they shouldn't be an S team. They were just have incredible talent. You got Steven Stamkos, you got Kucherov, Braden Point, Vasilevsky in net, Nemestikov on D. Who else? Hedman on D. Like, they're just an unreal team. They should have dummied Colorado last year in the playoffs, but they choked. Next up, we have the Leafs. And see, I've struggled with where to put the Leafs. The Leafs on paper should be one of the best teams in the league. You have Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, Morgan Riley, Frederik Andersen in net, Jake Muzzin, Tyson Barrie. You have all these, John Tavares. You have all these great players, but they just can't get it done. And they were shit in the bed this season. They're currently 11 points behind Tampa. I just don't think. I think if they played better, they would be a higher ranked team. But currently, they're an A-tier team. And I say that without bias. Like, there's clearly bias because I'm a Bruins fan, but they're a great team on paper. They should be even better in practice, and they're just not. Next up is the Vancouver Canucks, who I know were in a playoff push. They're currently 1 point out. I believe they're in the same division as Calgary. If so, they're 1 point out. If not, they are 2 points out, or 4 points out behind Dallas, and they are currently tied for a wild card spot. They will. I know they suffered some issues with Markstrom being hurt when the deadline ended. One big benefit of this deadline is that a lot of teams are going to have their injured players back. Excuse me. And you'll have teams such as Vancouver who are going to get Markstrom back. You'll have Carolina who's going to get Dougie Hamilton back. There's these teams that are going to benefit from this break. But currently Vancouver, I'm saying, is going to be top of the B tier. They were playing well. Markstrom's injury definitely ruined that. But I think had the season went a little better, they'd be an A-tier team, but currently they are not. Next up is the Vegas Golden Knights. They're first in their division. Vegas has been dominant the past few years. They've been in the league 3 years, and they're about to make 3 straight playoff appearances. I think Vegas is a top-tier team. I definitely think Vegas would have made it to the playoffs. They're about to clinch. And I just think that you have such great talent with Mark Stone, Marc-Andre Fleury. You have William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, Shea Theodore, all having great seasons. I think they definitely would have made a push. How far in the playoffs? I don't know, but I definitely think they're an S-tier team alongside the next S-tier team of the Washington Capitals. They're first in the Metropolitan Division. They've been dominant forever. Ovi's one of the best players to ever play. He's going to pass Gretzky for goal scoring. I just think they dominated this season. You got Ovi, Backstrom, Oshie, Holtby, John Carlson, who's shown over the past few years that he's one of the best defensemen in the league. And finally we have the Winnipeg Jets, who are sitting 2 points out of a main spot and currently first in the wild card. They're a D-tier team. No, I'm kidding. No, they won't let me move them down. Okay, they are in my opinion an A-tier team. I think some bad losses hit them. but you got the talent of Mark Scheifele, Patrick Laine, Connor Hellebuck, Nikolai Ehlers. Why am I blanking on it? Kyle Connor. I know I'm missing someone big in there, but they're a good team. I think they were going to make that playoff push. Hellebuck stood on his head all season. He's basically a one-man show there. Like, for goalies, the backup goalie doesn't play that often, and when he does, they tend to get blown out. So I think that they're A-tier team. I put them at the bottom of A because they borderline a top-tier B team. But, yeah, those are my final picks. So if you look on the screen... these are the final picks. You have Boston, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Tampa, Vegas, and Washington in the S tier. You have Colorado, Toronto, Edmonton, Dallas, Philadelphia, and Winnipeg in the A tier. In the B tier, you have Vancouver, Nashville, Calgary, Carolina, Columbus, Florida, New York, and New York in the B tier. In the C tier, you have Montreal, Minnesota, Anaheim, Arizona, New Jersey, Buffalo, and Chicago. And in the D tier, you have Detroit, LA, Ottawa, and San Jose. I hope you guys enjoyed this ranking. I plan on doing one of the Vlog Squad with Zach when we get back to normal. But for now, I needed a video today, and I thought this would be a good idea. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.